to pray. There's no angels where I go, only pieces that are broken, scattered dreams across the floor. I'm home.
Alrighty, hello everybody, this is Kirsho here. Now then, when we last left off, Deku had just fought against the Predator, if not the Elite, and he has won. With that being said, Deku, he would just be, well, I didn't explain what was going on with him. Now, he is actually told by his team to actually go get medical attention, because he can always just, well, see the fights later. Deku would just say no, he is confident that they will be fine. If not, he will be. Besides, he's not going to miss this. Now, I want to say that since they just lost their strongest Predator, they would set up their second strongest. Now, this is whenever someone would walk over to Deku, as Deku, he would just lean forward, starting to whisper into their ear. Let's say that this is actually Bakugo. He's telling Bakugo that they just lost their strongest guy. Now, with that, this guy that they might be sending out, he may not be the strongest. So just observe him. If you think it's right, send someone else. Now Bakugo, he would just immediately get away from Deku, as he just walks over to the rest of the crew. They are all just standing there as one of the Yaoja would finally step up. This guy is big and burly, and in fact he does carry his wrist blades. He also has a plasma caster. Now, Bakugo, he's looking at this. Hang on. Now, this Yaoja in particular, he has two plasma casters on each side of his arms, if not each side of his shoulders. Bakugo, he's seeing this as he's trying to figure out a good person to fight. He would just pick Momo, as he does actually look over at her, asking her if she'd like to take this one. She would just say yes, as this is whenever the two would just walk forward, being sent down in pods and beginning their battle. Now, as soon as their battle begins, Momo, she's thinking that this guy will just try and, well, he may just be their second strongest, right? No, then Bakugo wouldn't have sent me down here. Let's see. As she's starting to go over this situation in her head. Wrong picture. Now, with that, with that being said, she's still trying to think on this. As she hears a loud sound in the distance, she immediately looks up as her visor's telling her about an incoming blast. She immediately just jumps to the right as she actually is moving faster. Now, with the fact that they all have been doing superhuman training since they were children, and this has been years later, I want to put her at a superhuman speed, if not around Stain's speed. Now, with that being said, Stain is very fast. I want to say being able to bolt 7 seconds, or covering 100 feet in a couple seconds. So, that's how fast I want to put Momo around, if not everyone, except for the ones who train harder. Blech. Now, she is actually watching this as she does bring up her gear, immediately just bringing out her, well, spear. A lot of the Yaoja on board are actually somewhat looking at this as one of them begins to laugh. Deku would just turn his head as the man would stop. Now, as soon as that happened, they immediately watch as Momo begins to use her quirk. She actually does create another, well, knife. They're actually kind of confused as she puts it onto the other end of her spear, and she is actually moving around. They're exactly watching how fast she's moving, as she actually is jumping around and actually going through different trees. This is whenever Deku, he is just really excited to see this. Baku's never really seen her move this fast. In fact, Momo is actually doing something they don't even see. Instead of her boots, she's actually creating small things. I want to say she created, well, they're hidden right underneath her leg armor, but they're basically rocket boosters, basically allowing her to move a bit faster. Now, she's basically moving around and doing all this complex jumping and, well, bouncing around like Sue does. Sue. Asui. And she's avoiding the plasma casters, as she actually just split her sword, well, her spear into two, coming in, slashing into the Yaoja's chest, as the man would just immediately have blood burst open, as he immediately just somewhat falls to the ground. This is whenever she would just be right on top of him, as she runs over, knocking out and actually just ripping off one of his plasma casters, putting it directly into his face and firing, killing him instantly, as he drops down to the ground. Now, the other plasma caster, I want to say it would turn off, because I do believe these are linked up to your brain. How else would you fire this type of tech? Now, she just immediately, well, drops it, as she just holds up her hand. The other predators are somewhat confused, and one of them would just say that that was cheating, right? Well, not really. The other would just say that, in fact, he believes she earned that weapon. Taking down an elite that fast should not be possible. But, well, that's what they should expect from one of their weakest links. Now, that being said, Baku would have heard this. One of their weakest links. So they didn't send out their strongest. They sent out their guy who relies on tech. Now, that being said, Momo would be beamed up, as she actually does come over, sitting down next to Deku, asking him why that guy was like that. In fact, that actually took a lot out of her, as Deku does hear her stomach rumble. What did you do? Oh, I did one thing. As she would just open up a panel on the side of her armor, revealing the boosters right there. Yaoja are actually watching her do this, as one of them would actually step forward, calling her a cheater and dishonorable, as she would do one thing. She would just, well, take these off, as she just drops them to the ground, creating new ones in the spot, as the Yaoja is staring at her. The Yaoja would just shut up and get back in the line. Now, with that is that battle over. And we will now be sending in another character. Realizing that, well, their link just fell, they will send in another predator. This predator will be going up against May. Now, May, she is ready. She's actually somewhat, well, done working on tech, as she would just, well, show off what she has. A lot of the predators are looking at her, as they do actually see the plasma gun on her side. They're a bit annoyed that a human has a plasma blaster, but they would just see how extensively she's been modifying it. Not even looking like the basic streamlined design. You can tell it's clearly salvaged, but, well, this is a bit different, as she's also modified, if not created a newer version, as she does have it attached to her other arm. This newer version, essentially, it's based off of the engineer's weapons, as she would be sent down. She has her small knife, her casters, and her wrist blades, along with her actual staff. She also does have a crossbow at her side that she can quickly pull out and deploy. Now, this is basically one of her first weapons. She did get some newer ammunition with it, but, well, this predator, she's not going to go easy on May. Now, what I mean by she's not going to go easy is that this predator, she's specializing in, well, multiple skills of hunting. She works in bows, plasma blasters, wrist gauntlets, and, well, actually just hunting down regular prey, if not setting traps and capturing. Usually preferring to bring home live trophies, but she'll take one back dead if she needs to. Now, as soon as they get down to the ground, she immediately begins by quickly deploying her bow. As she would immediately be taking aim, she'd be scanning around for the human. As this is whenever a crossbow would immediately just come flying in, and it would actually just nick the top of her mask, putting a hole straight through that part. She can't even see the human. She's a bit confused as she immediately just gets behind a tree with her bow. As she starts to scan the area around more, she would immediately hear something flying through the air, as this is whenever a blast would immediately hit the tree, sending her flying. Now, a lot of the other Yaoja are watching this and they're a bit confused as to how that's even possible. The girl's about 200 to about 300 meters away, so she shouldn't even be able to see that distance. Damn it. Why are these humans so much stronger now? Impressive. Now, the Elder actually is watching this, as he does look closer at this girl's eyes. They essentially look like the crosshairs on a human weapon. He's seen this weapon before, as he did collect one. Now, this is whenever he would just say, that girl's ability is weird, if not very unique. I see why they've taken her now. Training her in the art of distance weapons was a good choice, as any tree that the hunter would be hiding behind will be blown away, forcing her to close range. She now is camouflaged up in the trees, as May is just pointing her plasma blasters up, shooting holes through the ceiling. While this is happening, the predator is basically just forced into different spots, as eventually May would just be firing randomly over and over again. The predator would think it has the upper hand by sending its own blades after her, if not her own smart disk. May would have countered these with her plasma blaster by just shooting holes into them, and they would just fall to the ground, being disabled, as she didn't account for that. Her accuracy is amazing. For a human, she could be her best trophy. Now, she would immediately be trying to get up close to May, as she would finally do so, and May, she has her back turned, as she would immediately just bring her arm up behind her, revealing her wrist blades, countering her attack. She would immediately just flick her arm sideways, backwards, somewhat slashing into her stomach, as May would turn around, immediately beginning to fire once again, as she actually does bring up the crossbow with her left hand, firing it into the predator's leg and punching her in the face. As that happened, some of the Yaoja are actually calling her a dirty cheater, if not uncalled for. This is why humans are annoying to fight. Now, Deku hearing this, he would just watch as May, she immediately just gets back up, and she is actually moving around. She's actually basically getting ready to, fight the predator, mano a mano, with strength alone. The predator is confused, as she would just take off her gauntlets and do that. The predator watches as May just slips out 2 gloves and immediately puts them on. These gloves are lined with lead and metal, making them boxing gloves, as she would just extend her hand outward to the predator, picking her up, as she would just, tap on her fingers, if not tapping her hand, saying that they are going to fist fight. Interesting. Well, I'm usually at a distance. Coincidence. So am I. So this is not my strong suit. Well, it's not mine either. But let's make this great. As all the other predators are confused. These two are having respect for each other. They just sent out their distance fighters and now they're fighting at close range, giving up all their weapons. What the fuck? As May immediately punches her in the face, she would punch back, knocking off of May's goggles. May immediately just gets ready as she actually does bring her leg up. The predator would catch it and she would just come down with her right hand, punching her in the face again. These two would be going back and forth until May would eventually outlast her. Because whenever she did shoot the predator in her leg, she hit a part of an artery. And with the arrow still being in there, it did block it up. But through the constant movement and shaking it around, you're basically having a piece of metal rip and tear into your flesh. As she would have eventually been bleeding out, if not losing more and more blood through the course of their fight. And eventually she would have been knocked to the ground. As May, she would have walked over, picking up her own gear, latching it back on, and immediately just bringing up her wrist blades, saying that she was a good fight, but sadly, sadly only one of them can stick around. But I will remember you. As she just stabbed her blades down, killing the predator. Now, she would actually be looking down at her weapon, as she is a bit curious about it. She does pick it up and actually look at it as it does fold in. She's staring at this as she would go to put it back down, but she would immediately be beamed back up, as she didn't even get time to let go of it. As soon as that happened, she's just standing there just with her hands up with the thing in her hand. She would just walk over, sitting next to Deku, but she would just try turning around, handing this to the Elder. The Elder would just put this into her hand and just closed it up, signaling that this is her trophy. Which she kind of just, didn't even mean to take. It just kind of happened. Now, with that being said, there's only 2 predators left in the group. This predator is, he's the last remaining weak link, as he will be going up against Kirishima. Kirishima, not being very distanced, not being good at long distance, he is going up against a predator who basically just relies on wrist blades. If not, he actually does just try killing and overwhelming his prey before they can kill him. Basically, this guy's a madman, with hunting only being on the verge of being a bad blood. Now, with that being said, Deku, he would just watch as these two, they would immediately be set down in the arena, and they would begin. Mina actually does walk over to Deku as she does try whispering to him, "What is going on?" Fighting. I can tell that, but why? This is, how the court system works. We all fight, or we all die. Basically, if we do this, we can get a lighter sentence. If not, they can change what they wanted to do with us already. But if we can get a flawless victory, we can decide our own fate. Wait, you're saying we can go back to Earth? Well, yes, actually. But we also do get to choose what we take. You're joking. No, I'm not. So, this is for keeps. Now then. With that being said, Deku, he would just tell them this will be an intense one. As Kirishima is dropped down, he immediately just pulls out his wrist gauntlets, actually just running around, as he actually does try climbing up the trees with them, stabbing in deep enough to basically get enough to jump up. As his hardened skin is around, I want to say the tournament, but that would not be correct. He is harder, but he can already break the gauntlets. Now, basically, as soon as these two encounter each other, Kirishima is just trying to keep himself as steady as possible. The Predator would come down, swinging at Kirishima's, basically just flying wildly at Kirishima, trying to scratch and, well, tear him apart. Kirishima just hardens his skin as he just gets harder and harder and harder. Trying to keep this up, the Predator would basically just jump away as Kirishima just swing his hand outward, slashing off one of the Predator's hands. But only getting his hand as his gauntlet is still stuck, well, basically still on. Now, the Predator is somewhat looking at this as he is flailing around. He does just begin by flailing this thing over and over towards Kirishima. Kirishima just hardening his body more, as whenever he does slam these things down at Kirishima's face, if not his head, they immediately make contact with his shoulder, snapping in half. As Kirishima would just bring his up, punching into the man's shoulder, and turning the blades, chopping off that hand, essentially leaving him one-handed for the battle. He is immediately just, well, in shock as he's never been overwhelmed this fast. Usually it's him who takes down the prey already, as he actually does bring up his hand. He immediately just brings out a knife, immediately just trying to slash at him and stab at him. Basically using 3 blades on one wrist, well, basically using his hand for closer range, while the wrist blades are still there, so he's trying to just break through the skin, as he's just flaying around his left hand. He's doing so as he actually does cut into Kirishima. Finally breaking through his skin, he begins to try and tear through his arm. As he begins to try and saw through it, even that is not working, as Kirishima would just bring his hand upwards, stabbing into the man's gut. The man immediately just uses his head, trying to smash it over and over into Kirishima, as he does actually have his face square down. Eventually his face would unharden, as the man just keeps smashing it back into Kirishima. Kirishima, he would actually be bleeding a lot, as he just begins by trying to smash his face into the Predator's, as the Predator does try and impale him. He actually does stick Kirishima with one of the 2 blades, but Kirishima still has 2 in him, as he does try and rotate the blades. This is not really working out for him, as he can't even properly move his hand to do so. The Predator, however, can, as he just tries to stab into Kirishima's hardened skin while turning his blade, as Kirishima begins to scream. Everyone's watching this as Mina sees somewhat horrified. She just looks away from the screen for a second before she looks back. She takes a deep breath and she opens her eyes as she watches that Kirishima immediately just starts by bringing his head backwards like he's going to fall over, but he just swings it forward, stabbing into the Predator's neck, and immediately just pulling his throat out with his teeth, as he does spit it out. The Predator does immediately just retract his blade. As Kirishima just feels that, he retracts his own, as the Predator falls backwards, dying. Kirishima, he immediately just falls over, as he does get beamed up. He is badly injured, and this is proof of it, as the hole in his side is bleeding intensely, and as soon as he does come up, he would be immediately rushed to the medbay. But they were at least crowned the winners, because of the kill. Now, the last remaining fighter. This fighter, they were waiting to get rid of the weak ones, if not try and figure out who's stronger. This is whenever this fighter would just go up, as Bako immediately just comes upwards too. This is whenever he just says that, this fight will decide everything then, won't it? It would seem so. So, still got any more of those witty remarks, kid? Oh, you make jokes, that's a new one. Oh, ha ha. Sorry, well, just most of you guys are serious. Yeah, well, I'm a unique case. I hunt, I kill, and I have fun doing it. In fact, I do believe I picked up something from what you humans call comedy. Ah, neat. Now, that being said, Deku, he would just immediately watch as he sees Bakugo go down to the ground. Bakugo would immediately just pull his spear, creating two swords, if not one long staff. He's walking around with it as he does actually have his wrist blades drawn. He knows that this one is actually stronger than those last few fights. If Deku can get overwhelmed, then he can too. So he's actually waiting, as a smart disc comes flying through the forest. Bakugo turns and hears it as he actually does bring his blades up, inverting them and actually just smashing them into the smart disc, as the smart disc actually begins to start trying to tear away at his blades. He eventually does just move it outwards, sending it flying in the other direction, as the other one's coming now. Bakugo just brings up his hand as he does the same thing. This time, when he does fling it back, he actually just takes off running in the opposite direction. He does so as he immediately just begins by trying to climb up a tree with the gauntlets. Now, as soon as that happens, he gets up in the air. As the Predator, he does the same. He recalls his smart disc as he actually just put them away, pulling out his own staff. Bakugo would see this as the Predator knows exactly what he's doing. He would immediately begin by these two fighting and actually hitting each other with the dull sides. If not, the Predator's at least trying to fight on Deku. He's trying to fight on Bakugo's level, not using the sharpened end of his spear. He would just tap onto Bakugo in certain places, just saying you're dead. If not, just tapping on them and pissing him off. As Bakugo, he's just trying to wait until he can use his explosions. Now, as soon as that happens, Bakugo, he just watches as the Predator actually does stab into his shoulder this time. Bakugo would just immediately just bring his leg up, kicking him, as he actually just begins trying to kick him again. This wouldn't work as the Predator just basically gets blocking it as Bakugo gets pissed off. He immediately just uses an explosion in his leg, sending it flying straight at the Predator, as the Predator actually does get sent flying by this, ripping the spear out of his shoulder and carrying it somewhat across his chest. Now, this didn't cut deep enough, but you can visibly tell there's a wound, as Bakugo just says that he didn't want to have to use that. Whoa. That kid really is a human explosive. Yeah, those quark things are crazy. I want one. Now, with that being said, this is whenever Deku, he just sees Bakugo as he just watches as his boot is somewhat damaged. Or at least his shoe is gone. Now, Bakugo just immediately slips off the other one as he does just heat up his hand as he actually does coat the wound. As they watch him, the blood would stop. He's moving his arm around as he's actually helping close it up. As soon as that happens, a shuriken gets sent flying his way, if not 2 or 3. Bakugo immediately just brings out one of his own as he does stop the first one and dodge the second one. The third one, however, does stab into the back of his right shoulder, as he screams and pulls it out. As soon as that happens, he has 2 in his hands as the Predator comes towards him. Bakugo just immediately begins coming in, slashing at the Predator. He actually does take off one of his dreadlocks, as the Predator did feel this. Now, Bakugo does come in with his explosions this time, as he would throw the shurikens and blast forward. He comes flying in as the Yaoja didn't expect this. He brings out his wrist blades, blocking both the shurikens, but Bakugo is now directly in front of him. Bakugo would just bring up his left hand, causing a massive explosion, essentially sending Bakugo flying and taking out the tree line behind the Predator. The Predator's mask would fall off as he is severely burned around his entire face. But this heat is nothing that he can't handle. Now, he just looks a little mad and pissed off, as he immediately begins rushing toward Bakugo. Bakugo would just begin by putting both the batons, if not both of, essentially pulling his staff apart, turning it into two batons, as he actually does try doing a little something. He does bring his baton down, smashing into the Predator's leg and hitting him by the ankle. As the Predator would come up, punching Bakugo in the face and trying to grab him by his shirt, trying to punch him more in the chest. Bakugo is somewhat laughing and smiling as he just opens his mouth. Before the Predator can even tell him to shut up, Bakugo lets out a loud explosion, straight from his throat. Now, how is he able to do that? How can he do that? Well, as Deku just goes on saying, they helped us improve a lot. In fact, we worked on quirk control first. That one was a big part. They don't know a lot about quirks, just their physical. As Deku would just bring his hand up, holding it over his rib. Everyone is somewhat looking down at Deku as he just wipes blood away from his face, saying quirks are physical abilities. They have a limit, but they also have improvement areas. Now, cut back to Bakugo. The Predator, he would have been left in shock by this, as he had nothing to protect his face this time. The Predator would have immediately let go of Bakugo, as he would have reeled back in pain. Bakugo actually did blind the Predator with his attack, because the Predator put Bakugo right up to his face to yell at him. Now, Bakugo would just immediately come over, stabbing into the Predator's chest, tackling him to the ground, as he would pull out the blades and immediately stab them into the Predator's arms. Holding him down, he would just start saying to listen carefully, as Bakugo would just begin letting off and setting explosions off directly into his face, burning and tearing off flesh. As whenever Bakugo does finish, he gets off of the Predator. The Predator immediately is just, laying there dead. Holes in its arms and an exposed skull. You're able to see the broken skull, in fact, fragments of skin in its head, as it's basically just an open cavity. Now, Bakugo, he's exhausted as he walks over and tries to pick up his shuriken. He's looking down and he's trying to figure out which one is his, giving up and just pocketing his before he actually just slumped down, sitting backwards on, basically falling onto his ass. As he did that, this is whenever he would immediately be beamed up, as it is announced that the humans have won. They would come over trying to help Bakugo, as whenever they do, Bakugo opens his mouth, but he can't even say a word. His entire mouth just starts emitting smoke as he just starts coughing, basically trying to say water. He would have just written it down in his blood on the floor, if not, his hand. Writing down W-A-T as someone would put it together, rolling over a thermos of water. Bakugo would have just immediately grabbed it, drinking it up as he would just fall backwards onto his back, trying to catch his breath. Now, he would be taken to the medbay to get his wounds healed, and so would Deku, as it is announced that the humans have won. It is then said that they will be given a ship, in fact a brand new one, bigger and better, taking on the elites, but they will have modifications. Deku would just say that the ship should be just like their new one, their old one, except for bigger room and, one thing. A shower needs personal quarters, because just sharing the one is annoying. There's never enough hot water for just, well, a person. The Yaoju are a bit confused as they're just asking what he means. Deku would just go on explaining that the ship only has one shower, so they usually have a whole first come first serve rule. But it's usually whoever gets the most kills or, well, who's the dirtiest or the smelliest, which usually would fall down to me. But I'm guessing over time, I have my sweat disappeared. Or, well, you just can't smell me. The elder's confused as he would just say granted, and that would be the end of that. Now then, with that being said, I do hope you guys enjoyed the video, and have an amazing day. I will catch you guys in the next part. Ugh.